Just know that's recording. How are you doing today? It's a good one. Oh yeah, back when I was in school it was a big one, but I don't know if it's quite as big anymore, but it's still there. How are you? Very good. Well, that's a good little town. I've got a friend. She's the principal at the elementary school, and Christy Hurd. Yes, she graduated with me, and wonderful person. They used to hang them out, like big groups at Christmas and stuff. And her dad and my dad worked at the same place in Wood. Yeah, awesome people. Well, welcome. Glad to have you. Thank you.
Made him get off the video games. I was like, I think this is a thing we should get back into. No, camp this week is a really good time to go back on national. Yes, we're very excited about that.
I just threw my purse in. Wow, looky over there.
Huh?
What are you doing?
Well, thought, I was up, I'll make this one, seemed like a good program. I think Kyle's gonna get something maybe. Was that today?
Oh, no, that was Tuesday morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I went over to the that was on Tuesday morning. Their club meets. It starts at 7, so they have to stay up. So I moved up at 5:30 to make it. And after we got back home and I was like, I never did that. I didn't even go to work. I was like, and I did that a time right after so that I could function the rest of the day. I was like getting up at like 5 o'clock and I was like, I can do it before we're on an airplane. That's motivation. But going and then eating a bunch of food and sitting there and you're like, your belly's full, it's warm and quiet. Yeah, it was good. So I'm wondering. No, you're good. No, not at all. Yeah. I'll
Thank you. We are gonna go ahead and get started with our flag salute with Holly Keller. Lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and our four-way test will be done by David Sabatini.
And the things we think, say, or do
Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Excellent, thank you so much. Just a quick announcement, please remember that we record all of our meetings. Previous meetings can be found on our YouTube channel at Norman Rotary. We have a lot of guests today, so we'll go ahead and get started with that. Millie, would you like to, I know Amy has been here quite a few times, but we'll go ahead and introduce her till she's full blown.
Every time I have food in my mouth.
I'm really good at that.
For those of you that haven't met Amy England, she is joining us for the, I don't know, fourth or fifth time, and she's already asked for the application, and she's looking forward to being part of our group. I'm so excited. And I would like to say that everybody at Green joined, so I have to record.
You do come with the cracker. Thank you for that. Okay, next we have, hey, and welcome again, Amy. Next we have Jim Domowski.
Well, my lovely bride, Linda Dicey, he's going to come here and give us the same plane coach for 8 years.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Lee, for joining us. And then Lisa, house visitor.
Hi, I brought my daughter Vivian with me, and she will be starting 6th grade at Lamont this year. So we sat at the kids' table with Connor.
And then my guest is Connor Swain. He will be going into 7th grade at Lamont, and we actually leave tonight for his national tournament in Wichita for basketball. So what an excellent program. And we have quite a few visiting Rotarians. We have Bill McAnus from Falls Valley. We have Cameron and Richard Holland from Newcastle. And we have Donna Hoffman from Moore. I think I got everyone. Yes, excellent. Before we get off with announcements, I'm going to have Bill Bloom come up. We have a lovely little presentation.
Thank you, Madam President. Before I talk about the Rotary Foundation, I just want to say a little bit about Rotarians and fellowship, because you don't get to know your fellow Rotarians by giving to to the Rotary Foundation, but continue to do that, please. Or coming to lunch and listen to fabulous programs like I'm sure we're going to have today. You do it by outside activities when we get together in smaller groups, and one of them is the Rotary After Hours. So there's a lot of new members. I'd love to meet people there. My wife likes to come to that. So I challenge you to get out and come to these things so you can get to know other people. Okay, now down to serious business. Barbara McKendry, please come up here. Give her a hand as she walks. You know, the areas of focus for the Rotary Foundation, and I remember about the mnemonic, what do most police eat every day? Chief Cotton? Donuts. Yeah, thank you. And the P, what do most police, P is for Peace Initiative. Come on up here. Now, your area you like is disease prevention, public health, and boy, you've done a great program. But let me tell you what the new president, his name is Yinka. You know where he's from? No. He's got African headdress on, and so I think he's from some African country, and I'll follow up on that and find out. But let me tell you, peace is a big deal in Africa. It's not a peaceful place. So he thinks every area of focus in the Rotary Foundation can have some kind of peace initiative in it. I'm gonna quote him, read to what he said in our magazine this month. Peace does not happen by accident. It must be pursued deliberately, built strategically, and woven intentionally into everything we do. That is the challenge I am placing before the Rotary world this year. Rotary recognizes peace building as one of our areas of focus. I just said that. But I believe peace must be more than a category of work we set aside for certain projects. It must become a lens, one we choose to look through every time we plan, every time we serve, every time we ask what kind of impact we truly want to leave behind. So what he's saying is, in everything we do, like when we're preventing disease, that helps to spread peace. When we're doing water projects, that builds safety in the community and trust in the community. So the way those projects happen internationally and locally are people like Barbara who give to the Rotary Foundation. And so this is a Paul Harris +5. So we thank you for doing that. Please congratulate.
Thank you.
Awesome. Give Barbara another round of applause. Thank you so much, Barbara, for your continued support of the Rotary Foundation. We do have a couple of announcements. Liz Barfield.
One clap, not one person. Wow, that's super impressive today. Anyway, okay. Oh, thanks, Corinne. I missed you last week. Okay, so let's talk about, let's go to Finn. I know all of you are surprised that you're going to hear from us over Governor Jane about this, but we do have posters. Corinne is going to be my light right here. Yes, look there. Woo! So please take a few, help us distribute them around the community. And also we are selling tickets to the event. We're selling the golden ticket. You don't really need to buy a golden ticket because I've already bought my two and y'all already know how lucky I am. I'm going to win. So, but I do recommend some, see Mary's going to try to win. So golden ticket, we only sell 100 tickets. They're $100. And you get to choose from 5 places to go. And you have 2 years to take a trip. If you want to ask me about it, I'll tell you all about one combo for all inclusive for 4 days. It was pretty amazing. And then, what else do I need to mention? What did I forget?
Tickets are now on sale.
Yeah, tickets are now on sale. Sponsorships are still available. We're closer to our goal. So if anybody even has, want to do part trade and part cash, let's talk. And we're asking for small donations of gift cards, if you have any, to local restaurants in Norman, your favorite place. Go get a small gift card from there, and we're doing a all 4 Rotary Club gift basket for gift cards in Norman.
Yes, that's what I will be bidding on. That sounds wonderful. So, okay, thank you very much. Excellent. Thank you, Liz. Just a few reminders. We have our book fair coming up August 22nd and 23rd. Craig will be sending out sign up shortly. We also have a pancake sign up that'll be coming out soon for the school year. So please make sure you keep out an eye out for that as well. And I think we are ready to get rolling. So I'm gonna call Lynn up here and we will get started.
Thank you. Well, it's my pleasure to welcome back to Rotary Sherri Coale. Sherri played basketball in high school at Healdton and at Oklahoma Christian University on full scholarship. She was the girls' basketball coach at Edmond High School and an English teacher for 2 years before she moved to Norman High School as head girls' coach for 7 years, where her teams won a couple of state championships. Then in 1996, she was named women's basketball coach at the University of Oklahoma. For over 25 years, she led the Sooners to 3 Final Fours, won 6 Big 12 championships, and 4 Big 12 tournament championships. She had 19 straight NCAA tournament appearances and made 9 Sweet 16 appearances. She was named to the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame in 2016. She retired in 2021 when she began to write. Her first book was published in 2022, and it was Rooted to Rise, The Redwood Legacies of Life Anchoring People, which is an Amazon bestseller. And now today, she will share with us her book, The Compost Files, Stories for the Striver in Us All. And a special thank you to Sherri, for she signed 2 basketballs for us over on the table for the Tour de Vin, and she has signed books for Story Palooza. So thank you, Sherri, for giving back to Rotary, in addition to sharing your inspirational words with us today. Please welcome Sherri Coale.
All right, I'm really short. I promise I didn't play basketball. But I hate standing behind lecterns because when I don't have my stilettos on, they're as tall as I am. So I feel a little bit better to move around when I've got my tennis shoes on, so I've still got some quickness if I need to. Thank you so much for having me. We just got back from vacation late last night, so there's no telling what I might say today. But when Lynn asked me to do something, I say yes, and when she emailed, I said absolutely. So it's an honor and privilege to be here. I, of course, visited this particular organization a number of times throughout my career at the University of Oklahoma, so I'm very familiar, and I know we've got a lot of former and hopefully still current season ticket holders for women's basketball in the audience today. So thank you for your continued support of that program. Years ago, I had an opportunity to hear M. Scott Peck speak, and he wrote the book, The Road Less Traveled. And he was on a tour speaking about his follow-up book. He wrote several in between, but a follow-up book called Further Along the Road Less Traveled. And in that book, he was talking about this really specific place where success rests, where people are really fulfilled and they're at peace and they've achieved things. And what is it that makes people do that? And where exactly does that come from? And so he told a story about the most significant finding of his entire career, which, as any of you who are familiar with him know, that he spent his life studying success and fulfillment. He said the most impactful thing that he ever learned in his entire career happened when he was working with the United States military. He was working with them as a psychologist, and he was trying to figure out this very specific, nuanced area of where success might rest. And so he took a group of 12 individuals from the United States military, different branches, different genders, different races, different religions, different parts, geographical parts of the country. The only thing these 12 individuals had in common was that they were about in their late 30s, early 40s, and they had moved up rapidly in the ranks of their various entities of the Army, or in the United States military, some Army, some Air Force, some Navy, etc. And of all these people, they seemed to be extremely well adjusted. They had spouses, they had children, they seemed to be pretty popular, they moved up quickly, they were bright, they were impactful, they were leading, and he wanted to know what he might learn in aggregate from these people. And he said he sat them down, and he asked them in a room one question. And his question was, name in order of priorities the 3 things that are most important to you. 3 areas of importance in order of priority. He said he learned 2 things that completely recalibrated the way he looked at leadership. And he said the first thing was that of the 12 people in the room, the first individual to finish, to answer that one question, did so in 45 minutes. It took everybody else even longer to answer that question. He said what he learned from that was that these were people who were not afraid to really be honest with themselves. They didn't give him the answer that they thought he wanted, or the answer that they thought would sound good, or the thing that they thought they should say. They wanted to really look at themselves and internally wrestle with what by my actions is most important in my life. And he said the second thing astounded him. For answers 2 and 3, the 12 individuals were all over the board. But for answer number 1, they all said exactly the same thing. And it wasn't God, and it wasn't my family, and it wasn't the military. It was myself. Now, before you think these are the 12 most narcissistic people on the planet, M. Scott Peck went on to explain that what he found in these 12 individuals was the highest level of mature self-love that he thinks he's ever encountered. He said there's such a fine line between narcissism and self-love and self-esteem, and where is that exactly? What is that line that you can balance on and achieve and have great success and great fulfillment? And he said this is what it reflects, that those 12 people had agency. And so if they didn't like the way their health was, they didn't like the way they felt, if they didn't like the way they looked, they didn't blame the company that they worked at because there was a vending machine across the hall from their office. They didn't blame them because they didn't have a huge workout facility, or the fact that they had to be at work at 7:30 in the morning and couldn't leave until 6. They didn't blame, they took complete and utter responsibility for themselves and their physical well-being. When it came to intellectual things, if they didn't know something or they didn't understand something, they didn't blame their 6th grade guidance counselor or their high school biology teacher or the parents because they couldn't get them into the school. They couldn't afford to send them to the college that they thought they should send them to. Instead of passing that blame to someone else, they listened to podcasts, they read books, they talked to experts, they put themselves around successful people. They took complete and utter control for their intellectual development. And emotionally, instead of being around people who were toxic and who drained them and who were filled with negativity, as much as was humanly possible, they oriented their lives toward people who made them better, people who filled their cup rather than people who extracted from it. And spiritually, instead of listening to and being a part of the people who, gosh, that preacher just talks too long, he's not very entertaining, what are we going to have for lunch? I don't even know why I go to church on Sunday. Everybody in all the rooms are hypocrites. Instead of going down that route, when they didn't feel like they were close to God, what they did was study more and prayed more fervently and more often. In other words, they took complete and utter responsibility for their connection to our Lord and Savior. And what he found when he walked away from this group of people was that we have all been gifted with agency, self-efficacy, if you will, the ability to do something about whatever it is that is happening within us. We can't single-handedly change who the president of our country is. We can't go in and change laws. We can't maybe even restructure something within our community, but we can change how we react, how we respond, how we choose to live, how we conduct ourselves. Agency, the choice to do something about wherever you were born, whomever you were born to, whatever circumstances surround you, we have the ability to affect our lives. And when I think about that story, and I think about it often when I'm urged or feel like I'm leaning toward complaining or whining about our world or even our community or our church or even our families, when I feel the pull that way, I'm reminded of that. I have a choice. I have a choice. And in 2021, when COVID hit and set us all back into our houses and said, don't leave, you will die if you leave, we all remember those days, and it slowed life down enough to be able to see the choices. And I knew that while I loved being the head women's basketball coach at the University of Oklahoma, it was not the only thing I ever wanted to do. And if I ever wanted to do anything else, I decided I'd best get about the business of doing it. So I decided during COVID, and I'm so grateful to COVID for giving me the time to think about it. Because it's not one of those things you just say, I'm not going to do this anymore because it's a cool gig. I promise you that. But COVID slowed me down enough to remember that there were other things that I wanted to do. And so I said goodbye to the coaching life, running as hard and fast as I possibly could toward a writing life. And the first thing I did was go to my cabana in the backyard, and I began to just write. I wasn't writing a book. I wasn't writing for a publication. I was just writing. And I wrote. And I came up with 10 or 12 stories, and I thought, okay, this is fun, this is great, I don't know what I'm going to do with them, and I just kept writing. And I wrote more, and I ended up with 32 of them, and I thought, I wonder if this is something. And so I had a friend who recommended a literary agent. He gave me her email, and he said, you should submit your idea to her. And I said, well, I don't know what my idea is, so that might be a problem. But I sent her some of the stories, and my email very simply said, is this anything? And she sent back, it's definitely something. And so she and I set about the course of trying to figure out what it was. And she said, before we do that, I want to ask you to do two things. And this goes back to choices. She said, I need you to get active on social media because you need to get a following, people reading your writing. And I need you to write a weekly blog because you need to get a following, people following your writing. And I said, thank you, those are great ideas. 50% is a really good field goal percentage. I said yes to one and no to the other. Not on social media, not gonna be. So I started a weekly blog. And I know that social media is how you sell books. That's fine. A decision I made through my self-efficacy is if that's what it takes to sell books, I won't sell any because I don't want to live in that world. Just don't want to be captivated by it. Not judging anyone who is. It's just not the way I wanted to go about it. But I said, okay, the blog. And so I started a weekly blog. It comes out every Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. That was 5 years and some months ago that I began to do that. I started to do that blog. It's free for anyone who wants to subscribe to it. Sherri at sherricoale.com. Anyone who wants to subscribe to it can. It's free. It comes in your email box. If you don't like it, you can just hit delete. But I started to do that because the literary agent told me that I should. I continue to do it because it keeps me in the lane I want to live in. You know, we very often find exactly what we're looking for. Subconsciously, I'm always looking for good stuff. Stuff that matters. Stuff of substance. Things that make a difference. Human behavior is incredibly interesting to me. I'm curious about why we do what we do and why we act the way we act and why we make the decisions that we make. And so I'm always observing. And I have a phone full of stories waiting every week when it's time to write the blog because I'm always looking for things of substance. Not consciously, I'm not, trust me, I haven't been taking notes on you guys today when you walked in. But I'm always just open, like the bucket is open, it's sitting out to catch the rain. And I love that this act of writing a blog weekly performs like a forcing function for me. It keeps me in the lane I want to live in. And so I've continued the blog for 5 years and some change. So a couple of years after my first book, Rooted to Rise, went out into the world, I was still writing the blog, and I didn't really have any other projects in the work, but I was still writing the weekly blog. And a couple of years down the road with that, I'm at a Thunder game, and on the concourse, someone I've never met before stopped me and said, your blog this week just, it hit me. Like, right what I needed to hear, when I needed to hear it, like, you know, when you're in church and the preacher's talking to you, that he's talking to me today. That's how I felt when I read that blog, and I just want to tell you, thank you so much. And the person walked off, and I was like, I felt like somebody had dropped balloons from the ceiling, and confetti was falling, and I had scissors to cut down a net. I felt like I won a championship. I thought, that is really cool. And then the following day, I was at Target, and headed toward the checkout, and someone stopped me that I didn't know, and they said, you know that piece you wrote about empty nesters? Well, I'm an empty nester now. I just became an empty nester, and I didn't think anybody else understood how I felt, and I thought I was literally going insane, and then I read that, and I thought, maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe this is just hard for everybody, and I was like, oh, confetti, more nets cutting down. And then on Sunday morning, I was at church, and in the lobby, a member from our church said, boy, your blog last week just really got me. I'm so glad that you do that. And I walked away and I thought, maybe this is God kind of elbowing me in the ribcage to do something with these blogs. And so I set about doing that, and that's where the Compost File came from. That's where this collection came from. It's a collection of blogs that have been stretched and or shortened depending on the circumstance, cleaned up and polished. I tried to make them as a less time-stamped than maybe a blog is, so that they could be more evergreen. And I put them together with a through line. And I knew immediately that what I would call this collection of ideas, observances, however you want to phrase it, I would call it the Compost File. Because for probably 2 decades, I've kept on the desktop of my computer a folder called Compost. And in it, I would throw things. I would throw good stuff that I read, stuff that I didn't agree with, stuff that kind of made me turn my head just so with a giant question mark above it. The idea for a story, 2 or 3 sentences, a paragraph, all kinds of things. Just toss it in to the compost folder. Because what is compost? A bunch of trash that if left alone for long enough turns into something really good and healthy. And so I knew that I would call this collection of observances the Compost File. And so I began to string it together, like you do, with through lines. And as is the case in real life, life overlaps. One story sort of means one thing, sort of means another. And so they kind of lay on top of each other, hopefully in a way that makes sense to you as you read. But as I finished it, my hybrid publisher said, okay, we'll do the cover art. And I was so excited, I couldn't wait to see what the cover of a book was going to look like, right? And so she sent me 3 different options of piles of compost. Banana peels, broken basketball goals, trash, Coke cans. I was like, and it was a caricature, I was like, funny. And I was like, oh, this is not funny, because these stories aren't, hopefully you laugh a little bit, but they're not funny stories, it's not a comedic book. And I was just so disappointed, I was heartsick about it. And I called my friend who lives in California, who's the editor of my book, and he had lost his wife about 8 years prior, and his wife was a singer and a dancer and a movie star, and they had a beautiful life together, and we're dear, dear friends. And I called Zach, and I said, Zach, they've given me some samples of the cover of my book. And he said, oh, great, send them. And I said, no, nobody ever needs to see these. I'm not sending them. And he said, uh-oh, are they literal? And I said, oh, so literal, like banana peel literal. He was like, oh, no. And he said, tell me what you're envisioning. And I said, well, I want it to be more abstract, and I want it to reflect what the stories are about. And the stories are about, there's just stuff that happens that seems menial, not very important. If you're not paying attention, you even miss it. And sometimes it's ugly, and sometimes it's hard, and then you stay in it, and you rise above, and you use it to become better. And I want it to sort of emulate this uprising. And he said, I'm going to send you a picture. And I said, what? And he said, no, I'm just going to screenshot it. I'm going to send it to you. It's a painting I have in my house. And I was like, okay. He sent it to me, and I was like, this is it. This is it. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Where did you get this? How can I find the painter? How can I find the artist so I can ask if I can have permission to use a version of it for my book? And he said, it won't be a problem. I said, why not? And he said, well, you know, Yvonne, that was his wife, was a singer and a dancer and a performer. And I said, yes, sir, I do. I know about her storied career, even though I never knew her. And he said, well, she was also a painter. And my heart went up in my throat. And he said, no, it's not what you're thinking. He said she used her creative outlet in painting. It was her very private, creative path that not very many people knew about. But her dear friend, Dee Dee, knew about it. And when Yvonne passed, Dee Dee told Zach that more than anything, she wanted to learn how to paint like Yvonne. And so Zach boxed up all of Dee Dee's art supplies and canvases, everything, put it in a box, gave it to Dee Dee. And Dee Dee Daniels has a studio in Los Angeles. She is the artist who created the painting of my second book, The Compost File. We took it, we turned it from, it had kind of volatile colors, reds and browns, and we turned it to greens and blues because I wanted it to be more earthy and to feel like it was rising up out of the earth. And I give her credit, and in the back of the book there's a little paragraph that tells that story about how the cover came to be. But I thought it was a fantastic reflection of 6 degrees of separation, how life just turns around and hands things to you when you're not even knowing or aware that you are asking for them. And it made the cover of this book feel so incredibly special to me because of my connection to Zach and his to Dee Dee. And I have not met Dee Dee yet, but I hope to someday. So, the Compost File, as I mentioned, is a collection of blogs, and they're about everything from serendipitous collisions with people like the one I just explained, to uphill climbs, to rugged roads, to transitions to different stages of life. Stories about my granddaughter, stories about players, family members, random people. And today, before I open this up for questions, I would like to read you a story because I think you'll get it. It wasn't written about your Rotary Club, sorry about that. But it was written about Rotarians because it struck me as I drove away from a Rotarian meeting here in our community about how much this organization has done, and I put this on the rack for this community, and how much you continue to do. All factions of you, ones that meet at 7 o'clock at, you know what it's called now, Waffle House, over by the Waffle House. They're all over town, you know they are. We have them all over this community doing incredible things. And so this particular story was inspired from that. It's in a chapter called Serve and Return, and it's called Taking Care of Those Not Your Own. How long has it been since you've been read to? A while. It's pretty wonderful, actually. Like, I go to sleep, and I'll wake you up if you do. It's okay. And I'm old, and I can't read it without my glasses. So when I look at the words, I can see them, but when I look at you, I can't. So I'll be doing this a lot. Taking care of those not your own. A lady met me at the door, welcoming me, the guest speaker, to the group's monthly meeting. After a quick exchange of pleasantries, she must have noticed my eyes pass by and then return to the table near the door. On it were piles of greenish-yellow neon vests, signs on sticks, and skinny orange wands. She answered swiftly and specifically before I even asked. "We're school crossing guard people," she said, as if reading a sticky label, then peeling back the paper and smacking it to their chests. Of course they were, or are. Theirs is a century-old organization which commits itself to the kinds of things that make the world a better place, while simultaneously keeping our growing city of over 100,000 feeling like a town. The categorical alignment caught me, though. School crossing guard people. I love the way these four distinct words sounded in the air, all matter of fact. A good bit of the room was filled with walkers with their own respective back nines, long-timers who had been there and done that, and yet wouldn't be anywhere else on the third Thursday of the month at 7 a.m. But just as many in attendance were in the throes of deadlines and projects and days that do not end at 5 o'clock, despite when they begin. A quick glance would not reveal a through line. The room was a mixed bag of age and gender who stood in unison to salute the flag, pray the prayers, sing the songs, and recite the four-way test. It was peppered with disparate people who had together formed a tribe. They are school crossing guard people. A subset of a subset that reveals both what they do and who they are. These are people who show up and own it, whatever it might be. As I made my way past the serve-yourself pot of hot coffee and a box full of breakfast burritos rolled up in foil, I could feel the sturdiness of the room. Not the walls or the roof of the building, but the foundation and the character of the people who had simply decided to take on ownership of guiding little people from home to school and back again. I admired their gusto and their pragmatic affiliation. Such sureness isn't all that common anymore. Rarely do people display such sexy pride in doing such unsexy things. I knew a lot about these people without knowing much at all. They who had clearly moved from the doing of things to the importance of getting it done. There's a hefty difference between those who sign up to serve at crosswalks and those who consider themselves school crossing guard people. I wondered that morning, in the midst of the ritual of happy dollars and paper tablecloths, about the jello-y space that separates the two. The civic meeting adjourned as punctually as it began, formal and yet somehow neither stuffy nor absurd. Ironically, crossing guard responsibilities wasn't even on the agenda. The only mention came as a by-the-way cry that coincided with the bam of the gavel. "Don't forget, school's about to start," came the prompt, intermingled with the scooting of metal chairs. Evidently, the group didn't need a reminder, because I noticed when making my way to the door that the table earlier covered by crossing guard paraphernalia was completely wiped clean. The tennis ball colored get-ups were all taken by those who had committed to serve. These people know who they are. They do not need persuading, and neither do they balk nor drag. School crossing guard people are not an ordinary lot. They're more than volunteers who agree to sign up for the time slot. They're heroes dressed in neon who draw hard lines and hold hands softly while wearing humility and courage and layers to be revealed as needed, depending on the day. They are businessmen and women, retired veterans, grandparents and new parents, singles and widowers, and couples who sign up together to shore up both sides of the street. They are people who assume risks and accept responsibilities. They don't need to be told to be early, and they don't have to be asked to stay late. They are those who make a commitment to take care of those who are not their own. That's not just a job you sign up for, it's a way you choose to live. I drove away that morning with Luke Combs' version of Fast Car on the radio and a special breed of servants on my mind. School crossing guard people embrace the dual existence. They know at once that they are inconsequential and invaluable. These are the kind of people who can see themselves simultaneously as a speck of dust in the world and a necessary contributing cog, one safe crossing at a time. I share that one with you today because that's who you are. I mean, that's what you do. These things that you talked about before I got up here. That's what you do, is you make a difference, and you don't take yourself too seriously while you do that. You're a speck of dust, and you're a significant cog all at the same time. And you make our community get better by how you live in it every single day. So thank you for that. I'll open it up for questions now while I drink some lemonade, so fire away. Yeah, I'll take more than one clap, thank you for that.
So can you tell us, what was your most memorable time of growing up in Hilton?
Right for Hilton.
Paul's Valley.
Close enough. Most memorable, gosh, I have so many great memories from growing up in Hilton. Going to the gym by myself was, that is just so vivid in my mind through the years. My Granny and Papa lived about 3 blocks from the high school, and when you grow up in a small town, you make friends with the custodian. If you really want to be a good player, you make friends with the custodian, because they'll give you a key and let you in the gym. And I could go to the gym and work out whenever I wanted to, because Lloyd Powell would let me in and allow me to do that. So I have a lot of great memories of being in there by myself, just working, just no air conditioning, and no heat, then, you just go in there and work, and you freeze, wear a toboggan in the winter, and you just sweat your face off in the summer. But beautiful memories there. And Hilton was the kind of town where you knew everybody, and everybody knew you, and so you didn't dare roll a stop sign because somebody would tell your parents before you got back home. I mean, that's how it worked, and we knew it. And it was just a magical place to be from. And the closing story in the Compost File is a thank you letter to Hilton, Oklahoma, to the people who live there in the town that raised me. So I have such a soft spot for rural Oklahoma in particular, small towns anywhere, but rural Oklahoma in particular. So go Compost File.
I'm assuming you did not empty the file, and there's more stories to be told. There's yet a 3rd book, 4th book, 5th book.
Well, what's interesting, and I haven't told this story publicly anywhere, so you guys get this story. As I was writing both of the books, you go through the process. The publishing world is changing about as rapidly as the rest of our world right now with AI and all those things, which, by the way, the reason that my card reader won't work today, I just found an email from Stripe, and then they have a new security thing that you have to go through because AI is getting so smart it can break into Stripe accounts. So if you have a credit card today, it won't work, but I have a Venmo account I can tell you about later. But anyway, back to the question. Yes, when I published the second book through a different hybrid publisher than I did the first. And what hybrid publishing means is that you get to pick and choose. I think of it like a first cafeteria for writers. Like you can say, I need cover art, and I need an editor, and I need maybe marketing if you want to do that, or I need layout, and I don't know anything about ISBN numbers. That's how you register your book with the Congress, obviously. And I don't know anything about page layouts and how to do all that. So there were certain things I needed. I didn't opt for the editor or the marketing or any of that stuff. But it's like First Cafeteria. So I went through one, hired a publisher, and had a great experience. And then they transitioned into another business. So in my second book, The Compost File, wasn't quite as great of an experience. And I think they envisioned The Compost File to be like the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. You remember those? I have all. There's Chicken Soup for the Soul, and then Chicken Soup for the Parent Soul, Chicken Soup for the Athlete Soul, the whole thing. And I think that's what they envisioned at the outset, that the Compost File could be, you know, it's for strivers, but then there's one for parents, and there's one for athletes, and there's one for coaches. And I can see that too, that the blogs, I have them sort of categorized into buckets, but I've not pursued that. I stopped at this one. I don't know why I keep talking to you, he asked the question. But I have not pursued that. There's just something about, and I may still do it, but there's something about, you write it and you're now on to something else, and I'm writing something else, and revisiting it is not as rewarding as creating it, if I'm being completely honest. So I have two big projects that I'm working on right now. The blog still comes out every week. One came out Tuesday of this week that I wrote last week, so I write every day. And this is for the two children who are, without a doubt, bored to death right now. Writing and becoming a basketball player were very, very similar things, and they don't sound very similar, but what made them alike, that every single day you have to get up and do the work, no matter what the work is, and some days the work is fun, because like as a basketball player, you go to the gym, everything's going in, you're like, this is so fun. And then the next day you come in and it's like you're shooting a brick that's like a square thing that it won't go in. And you spend half your day chasing a rebound instead of making shots. You have to show up on those days too, and you have to stay on those days too. And writing is the same way. I would sit down at the computer and write, and some days I'm like, this is pretty good. And then most days I'm like, this is ridiculous, and I hit delete and throw it away, because it's not very good. And it's going there every day and showing up every day and putting in the work every day that ultimately compounds and leads you. It doesn't matter what you're doing, write a book, being a basketball player, being a singer, being a dancer, being an accountant, whatever it is you want to do. It takes that consistent showing up and giving all you have while you're there to be successful in anything. So I don't know how I got there. How did I get there? But anyway, that's for you. Yes. Start with Lynn and then we'll continue. Yeah, you know, physical space is so important to any creative endeavor. I used to feel this way as a college coach at Oklahoma. We had the unique opportunity, because it's the University of Oklahoma, that many times when I would recruit, I would go on a private plane. So you get on the plane and it's just you, and then hop up from here down to Houston, you go watch some games, and you get back in the plane, you hop up and come back to Oklahoma. And I used to say when I would get off the plane, could you guys just pick me up like 2-3 times a week and fly me around for a little bit? Because I got more done from Oklahoma to Houston in the air than I could in a full week being in my office every single day. There's something about the space. And of course, you're disconnected there. At the time, you couldn't get internet or any of that stuff in there. But it was something about the space being different that opened up my brain and helped me plan preseason or lay out the next week's practice. Writing is the same way. I like to do it outside in my backyard because I like nature and I have it just the way I like it. But sometimes I get stuck. Hello? Yeah, there we are. Sometimes I get stuck and I don't know where a story is going to turn to. I don't know what's going to happen next. I can't feel it. And if I get up physically and change my location, it's amazing what jostles into space. Sometimes I go for a walk. Sometimes I just go to a different room in the house. So I have a friend who has a great backyard. Sometimes I'll drive 2 blocks over to their house and get in their backyard. Just changing my body, being in a different space, unlocks things. And I just believe that that's true with any creative endeavor. If you feel like you're in a corner and you can't get out, change your corner. Yes? You want to come to my backyard? These guys are inviting themselves to my house. I don't know what's happening here. Yes, sir?
What's your take on the state of college sports with NIL and open portal and suing players for leaving early, et cetera, et cetera.
His question was, what's my take on the current state of college athletics, NIL, the portal, and school suing players, et cetera? We were having such a nice lunch, weren't we? I mean, we were just having the best time. And then now, no, I believe in athletics. I believe in the power of athletics. I believe it changes people's lives because it gives you a chance to try on stuff and try out things before you get in the real world where it really matters. Contrary to popular belief, how many football games we win does not really matter. I know you don't think that's true, but trust me, at the end of the day. And I think that we have to be very careful lest we take away all of the potential avenues for growth that sports offer if we cut off our nose to spite our face. And I fear that we are moving in that direction. Most coaches are going in that direction, kicking and screaming. They have no choice. Many families are going in that direction, kicking and screaming, because that's the landscape, it's the nature. They have no choice. And I say this to coaches all the time. If you want to be a coach right now, you got to deal with that. It's real. I mean, NIL is real. The portal is real. It's all real. You have to find a way to deal with it. I couldn't have done it personally, so my spacing and timing will be on my tombstone someday. So good, at right in time. But I think it's sad, because I think what's happening is the lessons that grow from participation in competitive athletics are becoming so secondary, if not even extinct, that we're not getting what it was built for, and that worries me. Team is sacred to me. When you have a portal and you can play on 5 teams in 5 years, team is not sacred to you. I don't care who you are, I don't care what your circumstance is. So there's a lot of tension in that world for me in terms of what I believe the point is and what is actually happening. And so I think it's tough. It's tough to be a coach now. It's tough to be an athlete now. I talked to a public school athletic director, and I think you're coming to get me, and I'm like, over time. You got your personal, I know, I'm coming real fast. Okay. I talked to a high school athletic director today, this morning, who said that it's happening at the high school level, that kids are getting paid $25,000, $35,000 to go from this school to that school to play high school football or basketball in Oklahoma. So what happens, what we do, I still say we, as the University of Oklahoma, there's a trickle-down effect, and then it starts to go to the Division II schools, and the NAI schools, and then to the high schools, and then what are we doing? What are we doing? So, yeah, you just took this lunch and went right there. Okay, I'll close quickly by saying this. I have books that are available because of the whole AI thing. I can't work my credit card machine today, but I do have a Venmo account, so if you want to do that, or if you want to pay cash or check, I'll take that as well. You guys are so gracious. Thank you. I know I talk fast. Have a great day.
Thank you again to Sherri Coale, and please check out her book before you leave. One quick announcement is we have our Rotary after hours at O'Connell's in Suite 6 and 6 tonight. Starts at 5 o'clock, or whenever you get there. We'd love to see you. Miss Vivian, and thank you to the visiting Rotarians. Thank you to all of our guests. We're so appreciative that you could join us today. And then Miss Vivian is going to close it out for us. You ready?